Memory politics comes down to how we think about the past, and that is not something that is objective. It's something that brings an interpretation from each of us, either in explaining it or in listening from others what they have to say about it. Now, let me give you an example. For example, 3 days ago in Spain, the memory Ley de Memoria Democrática, Democratic Memory Law, was finally enacted as a law. Yeah, that looks into the civil war from 1936 to 1939 and the ensuing Franco dictatorship, which ended in 1975 when the dictator died in bed. It's been 47 years, almost half a century, to have a law to look into, to basically fulfill the rights of the victims, the rights to truth, the rights to reparations, justice it will not look into because there is an amnesty law. This gives you an idea how difficult it is for countries to deal with their own pasts, and also the dangers when you're not doing that. In Spain, we have the rise of the far right, which is taking profit out of the lack of policies to deal with our past. Even though it has taken almost 50 years to get this law enacted, the reaction from the opposition, the main party in the opposition, who actually, according to the polls, is going to win the next elections, has been to say that when they get to power, they are going to basically derogate this law. That's where we are. A lack of reckoning with our past puts us in a very weak situation today to understand our present and to try to build our future. That is a main issue in Spain currently. Let alone Spain does not deal with its recent past, it does not deal with its colonial past. A couple of examples of recently. King Felipe VI, in August this year, attended the inauguration of the new president in Colombia. When the sword of Bolivar was brought in, he was the only representative not to stand up, not to pay the respects towards those who gained independence from Spain. Those are the logics of the Spanish state today when it looks into its colonial past. President of Mexico as well asked Spain to say sorry for the colonization. The response from the Spanish government was to say, we don't need to say sorry for anything. That's the mentality. Now, that mentality, I believe, runs against what other countries are currently doing. And in Europe, we've seen that in Nordic states, how they are establishing truth commissions to deal with their past as a settler-colonial state, displacing indigenous peoples. We obviously have the case of Canada, which I think is a referent and will still be a referent, just as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, of South Africa, was in the mid-90s. I believe the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada, it will be a referent for the years to come. So in Europe, there is an opening towards the colonial past. There is an opening to look into the crimes committed by colonial powers, either in their own territories, like the case of the Nordic states, But also elsewhere, we can think about Germany, very recently acknowledging the genocide of Namaherero populations in Namibia. At that time was their colony. We can think about Germany returning the Benin scalp bronzes to Nigeria. We can think about Netherlands apologizing to Indonesia, France taking measures as well to deal with its colonial past in Algeria. Many states are taking those steps. Now, why taking those steps is important for democracy? It is important to acknowledge and be aware of what so-called established democracies have done in their past to other nations in order to be able to understand what is going on today, what is our almost obligation to be inclusive with people, with immigrants arriving, with people arriving, and also to realize that we definitely need to look into our own pasts, see what was our role, raise awareness about that among the populations in our countries, in so-called these established democracies, to understand that that's part of who we are, that's part of what we have done. We have to basically understand that if we really are to be democratic, if human rights are really have to be universal, we also have obligations towards acknowledging and trying to repair those pasts. Every action has a reaction, yeah? Putting all these things now right in the middle and discussing about them will have a reaction. And that reaction is going to be against this discourse. And that reaction is going to come from certain parts of the political spectrum which want to take profit out of that. We don't like to be told that we did something wrong. We don't like to acknowledge that we have a past of crimes, and therefore it's very easy for those who want to take advantage out of that to come and say, look, why do we have to apologize? Of what? That message, it's more easily understandable and transmits much faster than the sincere acknowledgement, the sincere wanting to deal with the past. So we have to be prepared for that, because that reaction is taking place and will be very strong. So we need to give our message already, counting that a reaction will be there and that reaction will counterattack. I think in a way that is already happening. We've seen that in the case, for example, of Spain, as I was saying. Just the fact that this law gets enacted brings about a counter discourse saying you are raising the ghosts of the past. You just want to go back to the Civil War. Well, this law, the law enacted in Spain, just incorporates what the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the promotion of truth, justice, reparations, and guarantees of non-recurrence has been saying, what the working group on enforced disappearances has been saying, if you have thousands and thousands of people disappear who are buried, there is an obligation to allow relatives of those people to exhume their bodies and to bury them properly. This is not against anybody, it's just acting in favor of those who are victimized. So what I think is that we have to be aware is that our speech here, our raising these points will definitely bring back a response against this, and we have to prepare that for when it comes.